simultaneously. Last night, the road meeting, of course, that we mentioned, also some local EMS and first responders and rescue personnel were getting some training in regards to search dogs. Not themselves using the search dogs, but what to do to prepare before a search dog arrives, and further instruction on how they operate and what they can do to best assist the situation. We'll talk more about that next week. On tonight's program, coverage of last night's regular session of the Magoffin County Board of Education. Some serious numbers that have just come in that I'm going to relate to you tonight and postpone another story that I had for you. And of course, we'll talk about your weather forecast. High pressure still giving us some seasonably warm air tomorrow. It's the last day of it. Still have that cold front coming. It's going to give us some showers, maybe a bit of a wintry mix, a little flurry or flake or two, and definitely some cold air thereafter. And I've got a good look at your Thanksgiving forecast as of right now. We'll get to all of that in just a few moments. Our friends down at the Keeping Room asked me to remind you, and I actually had plans on visiting them today to get it on air, and actually yesterday too, but didn't make it. So I just want to make brief mention of it tonight. I'll remind you next week, their 16th annual open house down at the Keeping Room, the opposite end of Maple Street, and from the newsroom here, December the 4th and 5th. Not this coming Friday and Saturday, but the following, and they're going to give you an extra 10% just for saying that you saw the ad here on the show, the ad which I'll have aired next week. Just a quick reminder. A couple of sets of numbers that I need to pass along to you tonight, not to make light of the first. Some are simply much more scary and staggering, I think, than these, but as serious as these are, we need to relay to you tonight the efforts that the Kentucky State Police say they're going to implement during the holiday season, which starts in just a few days. Right now, as it stands, through this time last year, through November the 19th of last year, there were 585 lives lost on Kentucky's roads. This year, as of yesterday, 652. We had seen a continuing decline or hold on traffic fatalities in Kentucky for many years, but for this year, that is not the case. And with those fatalities, compared to last year's statistics, increase, they are implementing Operation RAID, R-A-I-D, which stands for Remove Aggressive, Impaired, and Distracted Drivers from Kentucky's roads, all in an effort to save lives and reduce injury-related crashes during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday seasons. So they are going to focus their enforcement efforts on aggressive, impaired, and distracted driving behaviors, along with a zero tolerance for safety belt and child safety belt or restraint violations. The campaign, they say, is not about writing tickets. They expect that they will do that a lot, but it's about enforcing traffic laws and bringing awareness to a dangerous driving behavior or behaviors that cause fatalities and injuries. According to members of the Kentucky State Police, each of the 16 posts and 6 commercial vehicle enforcement regions are going to have a different enforcement plan during the campaign. In other words, you're going to see them a lot. You're also not going to see them. They're going to be using some undercover vehicles and other means to try to make sure that everyone has a safe and happy holiday season, because they say simply every life counts. They're also going to have some nighttime seatbelt enforcement details and some covert operations as well to try to make sure everyone is traveling safe. Our local headlines will get started in just a moment, but I came across a national report which hits home to every home, if you will, family in the viewing area and elsewhere, but it has to deal with some numbers real quickly that I want to pass along about young overdose deaths that have been on a dramatic increase. And I mean dramatically, and Kentucky is up there among the top. I'll tell you where in just a minute. I came across this report and couldn't put it down and had to put it on tonight and bump some things around to do so. 35 states, 35 out of 50, obviously, saw youth drug overdose deaths increase, and not just a little, but dramatically over the past decade, according to a new report and study that has been issued. And in 5 states, those specifically being Kansas, Montana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, the overdose death rates there more than quadrupled. And Kentucky is not too far down that list. As a parent of, well, I almost said two teenagers, I don't think that I or anyone can take a look at these numbers and not be concerned and say something, well, that's elsewhere. That's somewhere else in the state, somewhere else in the nation. Don't think that's going to be the case. Drug overdoses were the leading cause of injury death in 2013, exceeding that of motor vehicle crashes, according to a report today from the Trust for America's Health Organization. They're a national nonprofit that watchdogs public health issues. And the report, titled Reducing Teens Substance Misuse, What Really Works, ranks all 50 states on their actions to try to curb teen substance abuse from alcohol to opioids among 12 to 25-year-olds. And they did this looking at numbers from 99 to 2013. Of the 35 states that have seen an increase in youth overdose deaths from 99 to 2011, rates more than tripled in 12 states. They more than quadrupled in 5 states. The report noted that rates have more than doubled in 18 states, and those 18 states, out of those, well, they include ours and some close to us. As far as those that have more than tripled, Arkansas, Delaware, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, New Hampshire, New York, Oklahoma, Utah, and West Virginia. And I'll come back to West Virginia in just a moment. Out of those states that had rates more than double, well, Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, South Carolina among those 18. While Kansas, Montana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Wyoming saw the biggest increase in youth overdose deaths in the same period, they weren't the highest. They weren't the highest in the country. Current rates are the highest in West Virginia at 12.6 per 100,000 youths, obviously, that overdosed from 2011 to 2013. North Dakota is on the opposite end of the spectrum, the very lowest at 2.2. West Virginia has the highest of any state in the nation. More than 90% of adults who develop a substance abuse disorder or use disorder began using before they were 18. And some other interesting facts to note: the amount of prescription painkillers prescribed and sold in the United States has nearly quadrupled since 1999. More than 4 times the amount of painkillers are being prescribed in just the few years since 99. And prescription drug overdoses accounted for more than 1/2 of all the drug overdoses in 2013. Nationally, males are 2.5 times more likely to overdose as females as well. The increase, they say, in young overdose deaths is largely tied to the increase in prescription drug misuse and the related doubling in heroin used by 18 to 25-year-olds in the past 10 years. And they tell me 45% of people who use heroin are also addicted to prescription painkillers. Again, keep in mind, these numbers are based on the age grouping of 12 to 25-year-olds. It's Maroon and White night in McGoffin County tonight, so I am soon out and to the McGoffin County High School gymnasium. You've got plenty of time to join them for the debut, of course, of the girls and boys basketball teams, and a whole lot of fun and dancing, and I'm sure they'll have some concessions and snacks as well. But for now, let's talk about the McGoffin County Board of Education's last night regular session meeting. It began with an update on ongoing construction projects. And following that update, the board heard from each respective school principal, as in lieu of test scores in which the Harold Whitaker Middle School stayed basically the same at 56.8 for an overall score, keeping them in the 30th percentile of middle schools across the state of Kentucky. McGoffin County High School did see a significant gain, going 6 points up to 66 and putting them from the 19th to the 47th percentile, but still in the 47th percentile. North McGoffin Elementary still in the 85th percentile. South McGoffin Elementary did ebb back to the 62nd percentile from the 80th, and the Syersville Grade School saw the most significant gain, going from the 10th percentile to the 57th percentile. The meeting began with a brief update from construction manager Kenny Davis on a couple of projects. He said as far as the baseball and softball fields, they're all but done. They're going to have some owner training next week, and they'll have a punch list of some small items to be finished, hopefully done before the Thanksgiving holiday next week. As for the classroom wing in the new McGoffin County High School structure, they're painting, they're putting up the ceiling grid, and they hope to polish the floors by Christmas. The cafeteria, kitchen, and media center portion they hope to have under roof by the 1st of December. The gymnasium portion is progressing. They hope to have it under roof by the 1st of the year, and their goal is still to turn it over to the school system by July the 1st and then finish up some basic odds and ends through the month of August, but they still say it's on schedule to be ready by the 1st of next school year. Then we began with the first of each school principal to address the Board of Education, reflecting on recent scores, test scores from their assessments, and their goals and strategies for improving test scores. Chris Meadows, assistant principal of the Magoffin County High School, spoke of last year's testing. They received an overall 66, which was better than the state goal set at 61 for the Magoffin County High School. It is also 4.2 points from being a proficient school system. It was labeled as a needs improvement school because it was less than proficient, also a progressing school because it met or exceeded the state goals, a focus school because there is a gap group in writing. Basically, he said, not enough special education population scoring proficient in writing, and it was also considered to be a high progress school in the top 10% of improvement across the state. Areas he outlined where they are going to focus on improvement: reducing the novice number of students and increasing student engagement.
And as we look ahead, the first improvement strategy that we've listed here is novice reduction. And novice reduction is statewide. There's a big push right now throughout the state by KDE to reduce novice. As a matter of fact, they're asking that we reduce the number of novice students that we have by half by 2020. That's the statewide goal. And our leadership at the school level has received training from the Department of Education on writing novice reduction plans and implementing them. We have gone ahead and met with lead teachers in each of the content areas to get their input in these plans, because those are the people that are truly going to implement it. And basically what our plan is going to include this year is more remediation and interventions for students in math, science, social studies, and reading. And as we test them throughout the year, we're going to be looking at that data and working with them in between assessments. There's going to be increased mentoring and advising. We're even discussing a school-wide game, a challenge that we're maybe going to implement to spur them to move out of the novice level. But we're looking at bi-monthly advising and mentoring with administrators for students who have been targeted scoring at the novice level. And then teachers are working with their departments to really work on student engagement. We found that we live in a very high-tech society. Students have everything at their fingertips, and they do not learn or perform the way we did 15 or 20 years ago. So they're looking at integrating more technology and so forth to increase that engagement level.
Middle school principal Johnny Johnson next addressed the Board of Education, initially referring to the past couple of years of test scores for middle school students in Magoffin County, noting that in the 2013-14 school year, the school saw significant gains nearly across the board. However, the following year, 2014 and 15, last year, for which test scores were just released recently, they saw decreases in all math, social studies, and writing. He says they are now looking back to what worked for them the year before, hoping to see another increase next year.
What we're looking to do to reduce this is, first and foremost, as in the district, is our novice reduction. And things we're going to do there is we're going to realign our resources. We had a meeting yesterday in Hazard. They were talking about the district curriculum, because that's the district-wide focus, is novice reduction. So we'll be working on that, realign those resources, adjust our focus onto how it is that we are reaching these kids that are scoring at the novice level. We've implemented that this year with our ESS program, our Student School Services, where we are encouraging and focusing these novice students to participate in ESS. Also, we're offering, we have a third period class, which is a refresher course, if you want to call it. We're focusing on kids, for example, if they scored novice in math, we're focusing on getting them into that third period math class to work on what it is that they may need to look at. We've been focusing on the high novice at this time. Later on, we'll focus on our lower novice, but we're trying to get those high novices up to what we call apprentice. And we know overall we want to be a proficient. So that's what we're looking to do. We're reconstructing our teams as far as within the school. We're looking at different combinations that we can use in order to be more successful as far as like with their science and their math and so forth. So we've been looking at that. And other things we're going to do is we're going to disaggregate and analyze and use our data. we have been in the last week for 3 days. We performed our second go-around with the benchmark test. We did a first one at the first of the year. We did that. We did the second one last week. So what we'll be doing between now, after Thanksgiving and Christmas, we'll be looking at that data, identifying these kids, seeing if there's what growth they've shown, if they've not shown growth, looking at those. Then we'll be restructuring basically our third period to work with those students that may need more growth. Monitor our student progress closely. We have programs in place through our math and our science, which is like our study island. They monitor constantly their growth or their non-growth. So it gives us something to go by there. And we also have IX program in our math, and it's really good. And it really gives our math teachers gives good feedback on what the kids are doing and so forth. We're ensuring our curriculum delivery. Have a curriculum coach. Their job is to make sure that teachers are following the curriculum as it needs to be, and they've been doing a very good job at that. So that's going pretty good. Implement standards with fidelity and strive for continuous improvement. We know that we had a down year this year, but we know that the year before that we had a very good year. So we know we can do that, and we're focusing on that, and we're focused on the fact of getting ready with the anticipation of having the building to ourselves next year. So that helps a lot, and it's got the teachers motivating the fact that they want to start out the year next year on a high note.
The other principals also addressed the Board of Education due to obvious time constraints. That's all we'll be able to show you this evening. You can catch the entire school board meeting on this channel at a later time. Be sure and watch for that regardless of what system or provider you are watching. That will be aired at a later time, and you can catch the remaining and the entirety of the school board meeting, as you can always catch all local governmental meetings on this channel. That's going to wrap it up. I've already covered the weather. I've already covered everything else that I've got that I can tonight. It's off the maroon and white night. If I don't see you there, well, I'll more than likely see you soon. It's one of the, this pains me so much to say, it's one of the few remaining weekends before, well, the last one before the Thanksgiving holiday, but for the Christmas holiday, well, it's one of the very few. And we hope you enjoy it as such, but I assume preparation for the holidays will be on the mind of many. You'll be on our mind throughout the weekend, and hopes that you'll join us back here next week for more of Your News Today. Thank you for being a part of the show each and every night. Good night.